Just you?
Just me.
Okay. Well, minutes are great.
That's why I'm getting multiple recording
What
time.
are we missing?
Okay, when that comes on, I'm going to get that in.
This is our lunch snack.
Okay, we're up and running.
That's the job. You can go, let's go. Whatever that is. So that's your turn.
You could channel this.
You okay with you want to send that over? All right.
We're good to go.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. First up on the agenda, we'll be looking to approve the February 11, 2020 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the February 11 minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Who was the second? Dennis, okay. This will be a voice vote. Yeah.
All in favor?
Any opposed?
I abstained since I was there.
Meeting minutes are passed. Mr. Chairman?
All right, and we're going to be moving a special report, which is item number 3 on the agenda, down a little bit, item number 6, just because we have a substantial amount of materials. We're going to go ahead and move then into item number 4, which is amending the overlay district conceptual plan for Eagle Ridge. Is the applicant here to make a presentation of the request? Yes. Awesome. And could you state your name and address up here, please?
Eric Craig, 1220 Bainbridge Road, Smithville, Missouri. Thank you for your time this evening. I'm one of the partners on this development here in Smithville off a commercial road coming directly to the north of the high school. The reason for our development is
That one will work too.
The Eagle Ridge project mission is to create homes for Smithville's workforce, teachers, retirees, firefighters, police officers, and employees of local businesses. I'm a local real estate agent, broker, have my office here in town. I've been in real estate here in Smithville, thankfully for 19 years. And we're kind of upon some very strange times with our housing, not just in Smithville, but in the nation pretty much. One thing that's really concerning to me from a real estate standpoint, and also as just a citizen of this town, is what is considered affordable housing. Now, sometimes that word gets misinterpreted and is looked at as a negative context. But what we're finding now is with the cost of developments and putting the infrastructure into developments, we're seeing lot prices that are substantially costly, and to be honest with you, probably as soon as Lake Meadows, which is up off of 169, Glenn is finished up, you will no longer see new construction, single-family homes under $250,000. In my opinion, as you know, $250,000 is a pretty expensive home, and so therefore we're kind of losing track of being able to provide housing, for example, to our teachers. I met with some clients of mine. Unfortunately, they were getting a divorce, and due to the fact that they were separating, they were going to both be on single incomes. They were no longer going to be able to live in Smithville. They're going to be relocating to apartments south of 152. And those are the type of people that we'd like to see here. They'd like to stay here if they could. They've got two children, and they're unfortunately going to have to leave. What we're proposing here is, if you look, we've got two phases. Jack, this laser, how does the laser work?
The bottom, oh, wait a minute. I figured out what.
We've got two phases, that you can see here. Where's that?
It's the bottom is the laser. It all works now.
You've got the hospital, which is right here. This is commercial. This is the high school here. Our phase one is basically this black dotted line that you see here. Phase one, this is what we're currently working on. Although we have done substantial improvements to the pond, we've basically have about $249,000 in improvements to that pond. But what we are proposing is, this is currently approved right here to be 2-unit townhomes, and this currently is approved to be single-family villas. What we're looking to and asking for this evening is for this area that you see right here to go to 2-unit townhomes as well. And phase two, this is going to stay single-family. This is Kindred Estates that you see here. And these boxes that you see are going to stay single-family villas. This entire development is going to be maintenance provided. That's going to include lawn, snow removal, and so there are also going to be restrictions very similar to what is up in Ashmont. In fact, we're kind of using kind of their bylaws and going to continue to provide subdivision that does have restrictions, and they are going to be enforced. The purpose of this request is to provide housing starting at $220,000. Maintenance provided neighborhood at a reasonable monthly cost. This is going to run somewhere between $100 and $125 a month. And the other concern we have is that in Smithville right now, we're starting to come with oversaturation of homes above 300,000. So you have Rollins Landing, you've got Rock Creek, you've got Greyhawk at the lake, all those subdivisions, all the homes that are being built right now are all over 300,000. When we originally met with the estimator and our contractor in regards to putting in this development, our original proposed lot cost was $48,245. Currently, right now, we're 44% over that budget. We're approximately about $71,820 per lot. And so these are actual costs. I've met with several people from the city and discussed with them and being very transparent with them. These are the actual costs. This was the original bid that we had from the contractor. This is what we purchased the original ground for, was $464,500. Splitting that in half because of phase one. These are your typical fees, permits, engineering. We had to lower AT&T fiber optic line along the middle. This was kind of an unexpected expense. There was a pond. This pond that you see right here that was put in the 50s was actually $137,400 in wetlands goes to the federal government. That put us at $48,245 per lot. Right now, you'll see again with our excavating, this is where it comes in higher, 40 or close to 44%. The land cost, our entry monumentation, which will be off the commercial, street lighting, impact fees. This equals our total projection, and this comes down to our total lot cost, which is $23,575 higher than what we project. This is one of our floor plans that we're going to be putting in. This style floor plan is going to be on the south part and through here. We're trying to keep, because we're actually dedicating this lot that you see right here to the school district. We're deeding that to them, so we want accessibility for kids, because there's a lot of kids that have been using this street, walking to school basically for a long period of time. This two-story that we see here is a two-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 1,659 square foot house. Originally, we were hoping to bring it in at $219,900, with the price increases that puts us in at $241,809. This is a story and a half floor plan. A lot of people ask me about what does that mean, a story and a half. A story and a half means there's a main level master bedroom. So this is actually a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, story and a half floor plan. You've got 3 bedrooms upstairs. You've got a full bathroom upstairs, a master bedroom on the main level, laundry and things like that. We found a lot of people are looking for main level living. The original listing price was going to be $242,900. Now, with the price increases, it's going to put us at $266,475. This is our range plan that we're excited about putting in. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It's 1,494 square feet. Some people say, well, it's a 2-bedroom. It's very common in this style of units to have 2 bedrooms on the main, and homes will probably finish the basement and add a 3rd bedroom if they wish to. That's something that they can ultimately do. Original list price is going to be $239,900. Listing price now will be $263,475. This unit here is about 200 square feet bigger than the common floor plan that was used up at Ashmont subdivision. This is our smaller unit, 2-unit range townhome. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,239 square feet. Originally, its price was going to be $218,000, and now we're projected at $241,575. Again, the purpose for this development, when we first originally put it in, is its proximity to, obviously, what's going on in the marketplace, the hospital, and also knowing that Ashmont is finishing up. And I meet with an unbelievable amount of retirees that are on set incomes, that are looking for main level living. They want to get out of neighborhoods. They want to try to find a neighborhood that is maintenance provided, because they don't want to worry about lawn care. And also with our proximity to the airport, the abundant amount of people that come into the Smithville area, they're looking for a place to live, but they also commute and they travel a lot, therefore they're looking for that maintenance provided. This request is something that I know is needed in multiple reasons. Obviously, I'm involved. My own mother is going to be living in this neighborhood, and so it's important for me that it's done correctly and done right. So I'm here this evening to answer any questions that anybody may have or concerns, and just let me know. I appreciate your time.
Commission, any questions for the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions. I apologize for my being late. No disrespect to you, sir.
Thank you.
I know several people that live in Ashmont, and I realize they're only looking at the plat this evening. And perhaps my statements, because they're not really questions, are inappropriate and untimely. However, once we say, give our graces to this particular business and the city council gives their approval, you're essentially off and flying. So it's important to me to ask you, Ashmont is a community that is needed, like others like it in Smithville. So I applaud one of 4 motivations for this development, and I support it 100%. The caveat I have, however, that I have is the developer of that particular neighborhood was in a questionable business practice of charging or selling homes on the pretense that in our case, $115 per month was going to be adequate to provide all of those amenities that you listed, including lawn care, snow removal, people generally on fixed income. What they didn't factor in were things like painting the houses, which is a good sum of money once you get into the process of every, say, 5 years or 7 years or whatever you might choose, is not adequate for money put aside for that particular process. Then there's the questions of roofs, and then there's the questions of driveways. So what I'm suggesting to you all, and with all due respect, is that you make absolutely sure that the range that you gave, 100 to 125, is more than adequate to meet inflation, to meet good business practices, like a certain percentage aside of the total budget, because that has been, from what I hear, a very difficult point for that particular neighborhood. And then finally, you mentioned the word retirement, and you mentioned that you were trying to model this on that particular neighborhood. Ashmont, while the vast majority of its residents are in fact retired, by covenant and by law, we have no definition on the state level as to us being a retirement community. And that presents legal problems, it presents individual problems in terms of complaints and that kind of thing. And many times we hear you think we were lied to, because initially $115 just wasn't cutting it. So when you establish whatever it is, 125.
Do you mind if I clarify something on that? We are not going, the subdivision, the HOA is not going to do maintenance on the exteriors or roofs.
Okay, well, that needs to be clarified.
Yes, it's only going to be lawn and snow removal.
Okay, whatever you charge, whether it's $1 or 125, because of inflation and contract costs, that's going to go up. So you have the dilemma of how much and what incremental rate that you do it. So it's fair to people that are on fixed income, Social Security, pension, whatever. $5 a month is a big deal for a lot of this crowd. So again, don't misinterpret my comments as something negative. This is only suggestive. And I applaud you for your efforts on this development. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We'll actually save other questions until the end. We have, I think, to allow public hearing as well, so we might ask you questions later on too. Thank you. So now we will go ahead and open up the public hearing for any interested parties, either for or against, will now be allowed to speak. Jack, you have been handed the cards of folks that would like to speak. In the interest of time, we will limit to 3 minutes per person. And each speaker that Jack calls up, please state your name and your address. So first up.
Mr. Owen. I'm pretty sure it's Glenn, but
Yes.
That's-
532 South Commercial. My biggest concern with this rezoning is the traffic on Commercial Avenue. There's 2 fourplexes, a duplex, and 2 houses there that the driveways, you pull into the driveway, and then you have to back out on Commercial, get out of the driveway, which the more traffic, the more problems that creates. It's already difficult enough, as much uses commercial gets, to putting more traffic on there. I have another concern with the east side of the development, east of Liberty Road. I'm assuming in the future, that is going to be developed also with houses. And all that traffic is going to come through this Eagle Ridge to commercial. And that's going to create a lot of traffic. At my residence, I have 3 cars and I have 2 drivers. My concern, if they rezone this, there's going to be anywhere from 2 to 3 cars per residence in there. So that'd figure about 132 cars. The section that is already multi-housing, there's going to be about 186 cars in there, in that multi-housing. There that backs up to the high school. And then on the residential one, there's going to be 69 cars in there. So all that traffic has got to go somewhere. Those are my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it Carton? Corton, sorry. Linda Corton.
My name is Linda Gordon, I live at 628 Liberty Road, and my house is located right where the pond is. We have some questions regarding it. As I understand correctly, according to the gentleman that spoke earlier, is they're going to do Area 1. If that's the case, then we're going to be in Area 2. How long is it going to be before that side will be finished and worked on?
Are you in reference to the pond or just the set phase 2?
I'm talking about phase 2 finished.
Well, hopefully if sales go as good as they are, it'll be as soon as we get through phase 1. We are right now working with our engineer on going ahead and putting in the infrastructure for phase 2. That way we have a jump start and then we simply just have to put in the roads and the curbs.
I have another question also. Why isn't your construction company been working?
I'm sorry.
Why isn't the construction company been working?
They pulled off on another job. That contractor is doing a big project off of Brighton or Indiana 152. He's putting in a Quick Trip and a Burger King, and he has a contractor that has to get that job done, or there's daily per diems.
So when do you?
There's still some equipment there, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
We're about, as of right now, our plan is we should have homes being started in there by June 15th.
Another question, the pond. We seen a couple people 2 weeks ago, looked like they were putting a pipe down in the water to let the water out, to let it down, and we noticed the pond was going down. Why?
Our engineers have worked with the city engineers, and there is the last pieces of pipe that needs to be put in, where the spillway is going to be, and that's why.
Are you still going to landscape the land so it is up to our property?
Yes. Yes, all that's going to be taken care of and done, and the pond will fill up once the spillway is done.
And you don't have any date at
By
that time? By June.
When the contractors, when we have streets, before we have streets in, the excavator will have all that cleaned up before you,
Okay.
before you leave.
Okay, that's all the other questions I have.
All right, thank you.
I'm gonna hope I get this one right too. Natalie Bankus? Ah, yeah. Come on right.
My name is Natalie Bankus. I live at 616 Liberty Road. My main concern is the class size implications. I have a child that attends Horizon, and considering that it seems like twice the amount of townhomes could be going in if this gets approved, that would considerably increase the amount of children that would now be enrolled. So that's my main concern, is class size. So I hope that that will be taken into consideration. I'd also like to spend some time just asking some clarifying questions of Mr. Craig, if I can. So I'm new on the street. I've only been there for about a year, so I missed the previous zoning meetings. I've been told by word of mouth neighbors that there would be a green space in between my backyard and the single family home backyards, a 40-foot easement. Is there any truth to that?
No. So I don't know where you live. So can you show them on the map?
Yeah, you have.
Okay. So this dotted line that you can see, which maybe might be the perception, that's just showing the utility, where the utilities will run. But the lot sizes there are actually bigger than what you have there on Liberty. And so there's not going to be a green space between those two.
Okay.
The only green space that we have is around the pond, and over around phase 1 on that backside, and then ultimately the lot that's there to the south that's showing the sidewalk going to the school.
Could you point it out on the map, please?
Sure. This is a lot here that when we first brought this through, and I've got a lot of clients that live here, they told me that their kids have been utilizing this to go to school forever. And so I met with Wayne Kruger and Todd Schutz, and we're deeding that lot to them so they can have that. But other than that, the only green space that we have is coming along this area here and here. But again, as you look and see, I think maybe the perception was this little dotted line on the back that's just showing where like electric and utility easements are going to be. The same that are in your backyard, they're typically 10 foot off.
I just want to clarify that nothing that you have planned in this new offering is going to be a rental. Everything will be purchased.
And that's a great question, and I have several people that have asked me that. We are not selling to any investors, that's not our plan. However, I was in business in real estate in 2008 when the market collapsed, and there were HOAs that actually had restrictions that said that their homes cannot be rental properties. That got tested at a state level, and my opinion is people just simply left their houses, they vacated them, they got foreclosed on. My opinion is with these being maintenance provided, lawn and snow and stuff like that, I will not have a stipulation and restrictions that says it cannot be rented. And that's the reason why. But we are not looking to package deal anything to any investors or anything like that. So, like I said, my mom's going to be living here, and she was not going to live there.
Again, through word of mouth, I've heard that this amendment, I guess, if you will, that this was the original plan that was presented, and then that got vetoed, and it was changed to be single family, where you're now putting townhome back in place. So my question is, why would all of a sudden, now it would be okay to revisit this idea, just because you're 44% over budget, which is no one's fault here in this room?
Again, good question. That is not true. That was not ever going to, this was not ever going to all be 2-unit townhomes. We originally looked at this property to look at doing something similar to Ashmont, which are 3 units, they're 3 plexes. The only change that we're doing here is we're changing 22 lots that are on the first phase. We're not adding any more units than that, we're adding 22 units to what was already approved. But that is, again, this information is saying that we presented this meeting all duplexes was not, or 2-unit townhomes was not correct.
Well, there must have been a consensus or a great misunderstanding, because this woman is here nodding and clapping in agreement with that misconception. So I'm not quite sure that it was truly a misconception to her.
I understand that. I also met with several people that were also had a misconception that we were going to build $100,000 homes there, $130,000 homes there.
Well, to be, all due respect, 220 is not music to my ears. We came from Gladstone. We did not move from Gladstone to come to a new Gladstone. I would much rather they be all single-family homes like the original plan. I could swallow that pill much easier than putting townhomes in. I understand that your goal is hopefully for retirees to move in, but honestly, let's be real about that. Plus, the other thing is, with all of the plans that you have here, nothing is offering a 3-car garage, sir. Most people want that. And most people who want a single-family home, they don't want to settle for a townhouse. They want a single-family home. So I think that you think this is going to go over swimmingly, but I have to disagree.
I appreciate it.
Next.
Fred Barber. Got that one right?
I'm sorry, we didn't find out, but I'm entitled to be out here, so what can I say?
Signed up. Fred Barber, 65, Liberty Road. I was at the initial planning meeting, and we live on Liberty Road, and the children coming up the road, going to school, are perfect delight. Our real concern was density, and the roads, the traffic. Youngsters coming up Liberty Road relieves a lot of car traffic. I was here geared up to complain because I didn't see an opening in the townhouses next to the school, but that was clarified with a lot there at the end. So I'm relieved with that, so youngsters can't walk through it. However, a 44% overrun is a gross miscalculation. I have had some excavation experience in the past, and I watched the excavation over the preceding months. I kept telling my wife they're moving a lot of dirt, or no more they're getting out of those lots and those houses. Is there any penalty against this contractor to relieve the absolute necessity for a higher density, to relieve that density? This is a planning commission to determine the nature of our community. A plan with no recourse on a miscarriage plan is inadequate. My question is there a plan to recoup money on that 44% increase to decrease the density, to relieve the congestion on the streets in the community, and preserve the nature of the community? I don't know who to address that to. You?
It's all private, so it'd be,
Be through me.
Pardon?
It would be through me, that's hard. We did have a traffic study. We have reached out to the engineer who does the traffic study, and the city has been provided with an email that states that it's able to withhold what we're going to do here.
The a 44% overrun is a gross miscalculation.
I understand that, and we're in the middle of negotiating with the excavator so we can get this project finished. The biggest thing that we are willing to do is to get this thing done.
You're coming here because of the cost overrun.
I'm coming here because of the cost of construction and providing housing for people that can afford it.
You're talking about both sides here now. 44% cost overrun. Where's the big cost of that? Reduce the density. You're gonna build these houses, sue the contractor, then where does the adjustment come?
If we sue the contractors, there would be liens on the property, and they would sit until we got their.
So this body is totally ineffective in dealing with the contractor.
Yes, it has nothing to do with the plans of the commission.
No, sir.
Well, I'm upset because when we first initially came to this town, the only townhouses would be up against the high school. Everything else was going to be single houses. Now, look, they've override the construction, moving the dirt, and now we've got to build the smaller townhouses, you know, and everything else just goes out the window. True, his mother's going to move in there, but she may only live there a year and move on. And what are we faced with? We're made of Smithsonian. We love this town. I mean, we went to high school together. And I just hate to see it ripped up. To me, that's it.
Thank you. Any others, Jeff?
No others signed up. You can ask if there's anybody else who wants to speak.
Anytime, gentlemen, will give this.
Oh, well, then I'll take it. Dale Best.
At 639 South Commercial, one leftover lot there, house there, Rachel's home. We haven't been contacted by anybody as far as, you know, we got a notice to come here today about rezoning, replanning issues, and that's all well and good. And I do understand what he was saying is that 44% is extremely high overrun at the first stage. You know, we're not even into the home building yet. And they haven't even purchased all the property around by AT&T, Rachel's home. They have, you know, we're well aware from day one that that was probably going to have to happen. But we haven't been contacted by anybody to discuss this. We don't want it to go too much further out from where it is, you know, without knowing something about it. You know, this is a 4-bedroom, 4,000 square foot home, you know, with 3-car garages, and it's basically set up for our grandsons to have the rest of their life. And without any information or any contact from anybody, including the excavation company or the project, you know, the building project manager, we're kind of stuck here. I mean, we're not stuck, but we're just kind of wondering what's going on as far as, I understand that you decided now to go back to townhomes to create more revenue to pick up the 44% increase that you had on just excavating. What are you going to have on the home construction? You know, is there going to be another 44% increase? You know, you're talking about a lot of money that's going to eventually run the cost of each one of those homes up to where they're going to say, well, let's have more townhomes to recover our initial cost. And, you know, eventually it's going to get to the point where it's going to be nothing but apartments or townhomes, or, you know, we've already got apartments going in over by the hospital. You know, if they end up putting the street going all the way across it, I guess that's, what's that, Exton or whatever, on the other side, you know, it's going to be just like another commercial. You know, we were like the fact that they were actually going to tuck the subdivision in off the street where there wasn't going to be any more homes along commercial, you know. And the way this design is, there's gonna be, it looks fine, there's gonna be easement, 30 to 40 foot at least before you get into the subdivision. But pretty soon, when is that gonna stop when they say, well, we need to add another 10 townhomes here or whatever to adjust for this cost, Anybody can do that, I can go along and squeeze in another 20 townhomes in there, make up for the 44% overrun, but like I said, that's basically what's gonna happen when they start building, And that's pretty much all I have to say, but I would like to have somebody contact us from,
I'm not aware of the AT&T line, so if I can get your number, after the meeting, we'll talk and find out.
AT&T is right down over the hill from us, We're the last home there. That's why we haven't done anything to, like we had planned on a 5-year run and a 10-year option to do more work on this house, but from when we bought it, but why would we do that now when already it's like half destroyed from just the trucks going in and out? It's just, we're on a holding pattern, I guess we could say, There's nothing more we can do until whether, we're not gonna drop another, we put 60-some-odd thousand in it for the basement area. We're not gonna put another 100,000 in to get it up to grade like the guy did next door, when probability is that it's not gonna be there in 2 years. Why would we do that? It just doesn't make any sense, without any contact or any, we've been to just about every meeting that we've known about, when it comes to zoning and planning down here, and I think communication should be a little better, especially when you're having overruns like 44%. That's a lot of money, that's half the product. Basically, it's crazy. That's all I got to say. So.
Thanks for your time. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, the public hearing is now closed, so the commission will now begin our discussion on the subject. So, do I have a motion to recommend approval with conditions, or disapproval for omitting the conceptual plan?
Mr. Chairman, do we not have the opportunity to discuss?
We approve first, and then that allows us to discuss before voting. So this isn't a vote.
Okay.
It's the move to get into discussion.
Thank you.
So I'm looking for a motion. Just looking for a motion.
Steve raised his hand on that.
Second.
To amend the overlay district conceptual plan for Eagle Ridge.
No voting, this is a motion and second, now you can open it for discussion of the commissioners,
All right.
and they can ask questions or discuss or whatever.
Yes, so now this is the point time where we can ask questions of the applicant.
Yes.
As well, or anyone else that's spoke. So any questions or discussion items?
Mr. Chairman. Yes. Mr. Hendricks, the last two speakers really struck a chord for me. I hate to be indicted or challenged as a legal body like plans and zoning, and saying that essentially I'm helpless as far as this situation is concerned. Can you help us understand at what point a contractor's obligation to build what they present is set in concrete and in law? Because I'm thinking that maybe this is a reflection of what we can or cannot do in terms of approving additional or overlays to compensate for that kind of thing. So I'm sitting here helpless.
Sure, if I may.
Or feeling that way.
Yeah, and if I understand that, looking at it from the Planning and Zoning Commission perspective, or even the Board of Aldermen and City perspective, the city has no hand in those contracts. all private until they are done with all the construction, all the infrastructure has been approved and inspected by the city staff, and once everything's done according to the approved plans, then the city gets involved because they have to give all that to the city for maintenance in the future. That's how this subdivision process works. So what the cost is, if it goes up or goes down, we don't really have a say in it. Our nexus is with the developer. If he gets a great deal, that's his great deal. If he gets a bad deal, that's his deal as well. So as I understand, the question before you is, do you believe that, and I've prepared a staff report and left the only thing that's changed since the last one is that density. You're adding 22 more units to the overall scenario, and what that means, that's the scenario. This originally went through in 2018. Subsequent to that, we had the strategic planning. There were some concepts and ideas that came out of that, and now we're driving in the current comprehensive plan amendments associated with that. So
You've done such a good job determining our 8 points in terms of what we look at.
sure, and those are,
However, you would also agree that increases or decreases in density has a direct effect on traffic flow.
sure,
It's a very
absolutely.
real thing, and it's been brought up to us this evening.
Sure. Yes, I don't disagree. I would answer one of the questions that was brought up by a citizen in this fashion. If the development to the further east, I believe it was Mr. Owen that brought it up, if that comes to develop, they have to do a traffic study, like this development did, and they will have to then provide improvements based upon their impact, whatever that may be. And they'll be based upon the traffic at that time versus a speculation as to what it'll be in 10 years. So they have to reevaluate that traffic aspect when that develops, or if that develops.
I just need a clarification from my mind. We're talking 13 additional structures, correct? But a total of 22 units, additional units, is that correct?
Well, we already have 22, but we're going to be single-family buildings. They're now going to be 2 units.
The number doesn't change.
The number of lots is not changing.
Yeah.
There was lots of number of individual homes.
Yeah, the dwelling unit number goes up by 22.
Now, on phase 2, those will stay single-family buildings on the backside.
And if you look at the staff report on page 2, I have 2 depictions associated with those. One is the proposed, and the other is the existing. So the number of buildings stays the same, so the number of dwelling units and cars in that area, we're talking 22, potentially 22 new units, 22 new cars or homes that get implicated in the traffic.
I don't know how much leeway I have for questions, but the mayor can shut me down if I have something. So, from a sales perspective, you're going to be selling duplexes before the single family units, or?
Yeah, we're going to be, our first phase is, can you see that dotted black line?
Yeah.
That is our first phase.
Okay.
That is what we're currently working on right now.
So the single family will be first? The duplex?
Yes.
So my concern,
Phase 1 is on the west side, close to the commercial. Phase 2 is going to go to the east towards.
and that's where the single family is?
Yes. And the single family are the lighter yellow color.
Right. I just wasn't sure which was being first. So no concern about the sales of the single family units after you put up so many duplexes?
No, I mean, again, this is, I'm going to use Ashmont because it's just what we're familiar with when we look at it. If you go through there, you see that there's three units that are in there. The thing that we're trying to provide is that maintenance private part of it. And so that's the reason.
And if I may give you a different example closer, Harborview, which is real close to where up north there. If you go down Harborview, or go down 180th Street, as you get into the starting of Harborview, every house on your right, once you get past the curve, every one of those are duplexes. So this is, you put the duplexes up against the busy street, so it happens fairly regularly.
With all due respect, in Harborview, the duplexes came last. The single-family homes were there first.
So that was mine.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's always used to exploit the nicer, more expensive plans.
Because they built.
Go ahead, yeah.
Public hearing is closed right now. I apologize. But any other questions from the commission?
No, I just, I listen to everybody's comments on this and others, but I also spend a lot of time in this community, at our schools, at our fire department, our police department. Our teachers, our firefighters, our police officers can't afford to live here. We're losing our teacher of the year this year. We're losing our associate employee of the year this year. Neither one of them can afford to buy a house here. If our schools start to decline, the property value is going to decline way more than having this close to your house. So if you go talk to our teachers, go talk to our firefighters, go talk to Internet, go talk to chief in there, and ask them how many of the officers are here. Having teachers live here and be able to walk to school with kids is way more important than the view you're going to have in your backyard to me, the stability of our community, having this of people here, being able to walk to school with kids, having firefighters, police officers being able to afford to live here. Those things outweigh a lot of the concerns we have. If you live in a townhouse, you probably are not going to buy 3 cars. Fact. If you live in a townhouse that's $200,000, you're probably not in a subsidized income situation either. So throwing those things out that we don't want those people here, those people are your teachers, your firefighters, your police, and your ambulance drivers. They can't afford to live in Greyhound.
I'd like to add to that too, that some of the people that would like to live in some of these Ashmont-style homes are grandparents who would be happy to live close to the single-family homes that their kids are buying, so that they can take care of their grandchildren in the afternoon when they get out of school, so the parents don't have to worry about it. It is a win-win for a number of people, not just the firefighters, but also the retirees. We're not only losing firefighters and teachers, we're losing active adults and seniors who can't afford to live in Smithville either. And the Ashmont-style homes, I was in real estate for 20 years around here, long before any of that was built, and I watched the trends quite closely. And every time a home comes up in Ashmont, or over in the Harborview, or anywhere that there is a ranch style type home like that, they are gone within 3 days. Just boom, gone. There's a huge need for a maintenance-provided community that is going to be welcoming to the firefighters, the teachers, and the retirees. And honestly, no one likes to see their view gone. No one likes to see Smithville change. There's a grief process for a lot of old-time Smithville people. I understand that. I had joked with the mayor before that I used to ride my horse where the lake now stands. So I get it. But I also see the future in not everybody's going to like it. And for that, we're sorry. But this is a good thing.
Any other questions or discussion from the commission? All right, so now I'm looking for a motion to vote on the application for.
So you already got that? If you want, if you're ready to call the vote, I'll do the roll call.
Okay, is everyone ready? All right.
Okay. So we'll start here. Deb?
Aye.
Mayor Bowie?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Alderman Sarver? Carmen?
Aye.
6 ayes, and 0 noes. That will go to the Board of Aldermen with your recommendation as such. The meeting is slipping my mind, I want to say March 30th, sorry. So the meeting will be March 30th, the Board of Aldermen will address it at that time. You'll be able to come and speak your mind at that meeting as well.
All right, so moving on to item number 5 on the agenda, and it is preliminary plat for the bridge, which is assessing lot 16 and 17, and this over the preliminary plat. Is the applicant here to make clarification of the request, and you can do your name and address. This request is for this lot that you see right here that actually does not have a yellow unit on it. The reason being is we're trying to make it wider so that we can put one of the ranch planes that we have on that specific lot, because as it is right now, it was too small. So it's, I want to refer to it as a lot line adjustment, but that's kind of what it is.
If I may to clarify, they're presenting it as a preliminary plat amendment because it's changing lot lines, boundaries, easements, et cetera. It would have been possible to do it without coming to the Planning Commission by doing a lot line adjustment, which is a minor plat, comes through my review as long as it meets the minimum standards. But because they had a rezoning, I wanted it done this way so that you would have it. In the staff report, you've got this document that shows the two differences.
So as the law says right now, we are unable to build this unit here, the larger unit town due to the width. So that the side setbacks on both sides, therefore we're shifting, I think, like 4 or 5 feet.
I don't know the exact distance of the shift. The bigger thing to me is they're taking away some of that green space as well to square up as it backs up to that pond that goes down.
Correct.
The pond drops off right behind lot 16 and lot 17.
So it's really green space access off that cul-de-sac into the...
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. It squares up the back of 16 and 17.
Now, it does fit one of our other units, like this two-story unit is not as wide, but we're really trying to keep along this area here, along this area here, we're trying to keep these to be like all ranches. So we could fit something in that just would probably look a little different from a roofing standpoint, where things are kind of cohesive, and then have something that's taller. So.
Whereas code to Compton, that would not be a good thing. I have a question for you, though.
You have a question first?
Well, let's let the applicant finish, then we'll go to the standard public hearing.
You don't do this.
No.
Okay, thank you. So we'll send questions to the end, we've got a public hearing first.
Yes.
Any public hearing? All right, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to discuss that. So moved. Second? Moved and second. All right, so the question is,
Mayor and Deb, right?
Because of the density and everything, and the fact that there's so much green space there, could that, I understand the finances of trying to make a profit on this as well, but could that little bit of green space be, say, sacrificed to make a pocket park, a place for people to gather and talk? With some nice landscaping, something, you know.
So the topography right there, if you were on site, it drops dramatically. It's very steep, so that wouldn't be an ideal spot.
So would it be like a walkout unit then?
Yes, all the units that you see, really, from right here all the way around are all walkouts. And we're the pond, well, I call it pond because
It's an expensive
it's
pond.
an expensive pond, but,
Yeah.
it drops substantially. So, we brought in quite a bit of filter from, the marketplace because it was that steep.
You bring in some more?
Yeah, could you take?
They've got a big building.
We're gonna need some more.
That is Mount Smith
But
building.
you're still gonna have them out there, I promise.
So will this still be access to that space?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is,
No fences?
yeah, fences.
Fences.
We are going to allow aluminum fencing.
But they couldn't fence you out of that green space? can they?
No.
There'll still be a space? for
Yes,
you?
yes, sorry, I didn't know that question.
No, that's okay.
To clarify that, as it relates to the platting side of it, we would require it from a staffing level, because they have to be able to get equipment down in there and maintain it if needed.
Any other questions? Discussion? All right, seeing none, Jack, I think call for the vote.
Sure. We're going to go the opposite direction. Alderman Sarver?
Aye.
Carmen?
Yes.
Deb?
Aye.
Mayor Boley?
All right.
Dennis?
Aye.
6-0. This one will not go on the March 30th. It will go on the April 6th, second reading of the zoning, because the zoning has to happen ahead of it. Okay? Does that make sense?
Unless I get creative with the agenda and do it first and second,
Yeah.
try to do this a little bit
Yeah.
of a break there. Cynthia will be at that meeting, so all bets are off.
I'll be at the 6th, I will be at the March 30th.
That's what I'm saying, if we do, move it all on the 30th.
Okay.
Also, Mr. Chair, one of the things for putting this ahead of your guys' discussion. I appreciate you giving me my opinion, I appreciate it, you guys, so, thank you.
Thank you. All right, and with that being said, let's move down to the fund staff report. Jack?
I've given you 3 documents from our consultant. You have the March task force meetings, the preliminary things and conversations, the updated comprehensive plan framework and outline, and you also have the populations projections memorandum. With those 3, I'd like to start, if at all possible, to go over the populations projections. You have these digitally, and you get to take the paper copy with you. Nearly all of the discussions that we are going to be having as a community in the comprehensive planning process relate to what you see in the populations projections. It tells us what we need to be ready for because it's projecting how much we're going to grow. The number of people, et cetera, the consultant has evaluated, and this tells you their methodology. It gives you a clear understanding of how they got to the number that they are estimating, which is by 2030, they're estimating will be at between 13.5 and 14.5 in population. So 25 to 35% increase in citizenry. And that's,
Something about, I didn't see anything about age projections.
I don't think they've delved that deep yet, because I don't think the ACS will allow them to get into,
I'll be 10 years old.
yeah. Right. One of the significant, one of the significant factors I think it's important for you to look at is if you flip it over to page 4 on that document, the figure 4 demographic comparisons. Look at the very first line item, median housing value in Smithville. When we last did this in 2005, we're talking 155,000 was the median house value. In 2019, that was 227. So our house value in 15 years, the average median house value has went up $71,000. which is, I think, indicative of what the last thing was about. The house values are going through the roof. We've got subdivisions where the cheapest house is 300, and with the new stuff coming in down south and the big lot stuff, we're probably talking 750 to 800,000. So our numbers are getting high.
Median income's gone up almost $20,000.
Right, and the bigger thing for you to look at is what that means. Go to the very last three lines of that same paragraph, and you'll see, as Dennis just mentioned, the median household income in Smithville's went up $18,442 in that same 15 years. But look what has happened to that same number in Clay County or in Missouri overall. We're getting real high end on the prices of our houses and real high end on the income of our folks that live here. And that's the median number. So we are pricing ourselves into that real high end homes. So that's going to be a factor as we adjust, and as we have looked at some of the housing options, the discussion of more density, et cetera. Density does a couple of things. Number one, it lessens the burden on the overall city taxpayer, because it's cheaper to maintain 15 houses, the infrastructure for 15 houses on a mile of road versus it is 8 houses or 10 houses. You got 15 people paying taxes and 15 people paying utility bills on that same amount of lines, et cetera. So density's good in that situation. The other thing is that density is what brings the prices down somewhat, so you can get people into the market, which is kind of the teachers, retirees, that they're tied together inextricably. So that, I want you to really, really look at that as we go forward. Not a lot of comments probably as it relates to this, but if you would, review it, and if you have any questions or concerns or thoughts on the population projection, I'd ask that you send me an email so I can get it to our consultants, so that we can get those questions answered and put out into the task force process that's going to occur the 23rd through the 26th. And this information, this demographic information, you will see in all of the task force conversations. So the task force meetings, the preliminary themes and conversations, again, we have 4 different task forces that will be meeting that week. The education component we're handling in a slightly different fashion, and we're going to bring that in later in the process because we're trying to get students involved, more students involved. And we're working with the Board of Aldermen directly and the school board directly, working together to address some of those issues. So we're focused on the 4 themes that you see in this document, which is the recreation, connectivity, housing, small town feel, and economics. So as you look through here, I don't know if you've had enough time, didn't get them until 5:30 or thereabouts. Each of those items are identified with the themes and the key data that needs to be shared at these meetings. If you've had a chance, I'd love to have some comment, your thoughts on it. If you haven't had enough time to get into it, perfectly acceptable. Send me an email, or you can come down and we can chat, and I can write your notes and get that information to our consultants. Only way they can tweak this is if they have our comments. So, and once again, the enhanced recreation is the first one, then it's the small town feel, the business and economic development task force, and then the diverse housing options. And if you want, take a few minutes and read it, and I can take notes. It's being recorded, so they're going to watch the video anyway, the consultants will.
One other thinking on this, Alderman Sarver's going to be quizzed in a couple weeks on number of permits, and he needs to have his numbers. So if you could go ahead and get those to them real quick.
To be quite,
While we're thinking.
yeah, to be quite frank, I didn't run them today, so I'll have to get them for you tomorrow. I apologize. Yeah, I will send you an email with the updated data.
But White Iron Ridge is vertical, from what I
Yes.
saw driving by. I know this.
Yes. White Iron Ridge is vertical. I'll go through that stuff. White Iron Ridge, the wedding event center is going up. Red Iron being installed. Price Chopper, they've got the foundation 85% poured, and about 60% of the Deadman foundation is being poured now. So the Deadman is a kind of an extra foundation inside the building that will be covered up with concrete and will never be used again, but it's when they start setting up those concrete panels, they have to have bars to hold up those concrete panels that'll be the walls, they have to be on a foundation. So they're doing all that. Current plan is March 16th, the walls will start arriving and they'll start setting them up. So it's gonna go vertical there starting in about a week and a half. Price Chopper. Pours, foundation is in, they're fixing to pour the floor portion of it as soon as they get enough rain to stop so they can get some plumbing in under the slab. They gotta do all their under slab stuff, and then they're gonna pour the floor and it'll start going up. So by the end of this month, by the next meeting, both of those buildings will be visible. So things are moving fairly quickly on that front. The RV center is still moving forward. First Park Industrial is still, they've reevaluated some aspects of their infrastructure. They are preparing plans for that. We have made communications with the medical marijuana cultivation and manufacturing facility that will go in there. They are preparing their final plans for site plan review. And there was a license issued for a dispensary down at the south end of town on Mitchell's, where Full Features is, and they're going to be coming forward with a site plan. As I understand it, they are also going to move forward with their storage facility stuff in a site plan as well, and they're going to start construction on that as well. They've got about 9 days to get it to me to make the April meeting. We'll see who's there.
So just so you guys have, because I know some of you are visual thinkers and learners, when you see Price Chopper going vertical, look at Price Chopper as it's going up, look at the existing Price Chopper as it stands today, and combine those buildings, and that's the medical marijuana facility. Nearly.
Yes, here's an even better visual. If you drive by and see how big that RV storage is down there, that building looks pretty good size. This building will be 3 times that big. So it's a big building for the medical marijuana manufacturing.
And from a property tax perspective, we're thinking, that likes to come up when we talk Price Chopper, the medical marijuana facility more than covers that.
Yeah, the property tax, well, the other aspect of it, which is kind of counterbalance some of the conversations that we were having earlier with a lot of kids coming into the school and how difficult that is for tax bases. We haven't had new commercial construction in a long time. Now we're having a lot of it. One thing about commercial construction, the value is more. And the even more important thing is the percentage of that is taxable is more. So all of the new commercial construction, it's 32% of the assessed value is what's being taxed, versus the home is 19 and ag is 11 or 12. Either way. So it's about a 37% increase just in how much tax they get assessed. And then when you add in, a bigger building, your dollars go up for the school significantly.
The current school budget from commercial is in the single digits now. So those of you that have served on school boards before, that's pretty low for the metro.
So they're going to be going up, yes, they're going to be going, right. We've been house dense for some time. We've finally reached that tipping point and things are moving. Clay Creek is a good example of that. A lot of fear that would never work out, and it's fully rented. disappointing that it was a rental scenario, but the price point is such that, when you're paying $1,400 a month rent, it's,
$300,000 house rents for $2,400, $3,000.
yeah, yeah. So the Clay Creek units, individual units are renting for $1,400.
But yeah, these are weekend rentals.
So it's boom, 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 yeah. And it filled up. They built 124 units in 18 months and they're full. So I think that it illustrates we have a pent-up demand for that kind of marketing. That kind of market is out there. And those are rentals. If we lower the price of some houses, I think we're gonna see some dynamics, which is where the task force meetings will come. Thank you all. If you've already done your survey, great, thank you. But at these task force meetings is where the rubber hits the road on the actual, delving down deep into the actual details, so.
Public response, and we had,
We've had 332 surveys as of yesterday. We have 50 people signed up for the 4 task force meetings. I'm a little disappointed in that number. I'm making, and Cynthia are making personal calls to people. And that's the...
You need to reach out and make personal calls to people, because it's your friends and people that you know that we need to bring to the table and get involved. We do, not to step on your toes there.
No. You and I are on the same page. I was getting ready to say, you are the ambassadors of this stuff for our community. We really need you.
people too, right, enough to get involved in things,
Yep.
talking to and stuff like that. And I'm running into a headwind of just apathy. It's like, you guys handle it, and it's, okay, what? I've gotten a little upset a few times where I've said, okay, what we end up doing, when you come back to me in 10 years and say you don't like what we did, I will remind you that you didn't want to be involved.
Yeah, that's our big excitement.
Yeah.
But if you guys can help along that, it will really be beneficial.
And Jack may also talk about that. We recognize the needs, for our community, it's working. So daytime meetings are difficult. Community of people that have families, evening meetings are difficult. So we try to have different time meetings. One thing that we are working on is to try to be able to broadcast those live and be able to have interactive capabilities. So we are confirming that everything will work on that, that we should be able to have that opportunity as well. So you can't be there in place, you can participate and listen and send in questions, so.
Yeah, it'll be live streamed. As the questions and comments come in, we'll have a moderator looking at that and getting that out to the consultant or the groups so they can, everybody can participate even if you're not there.
The only problem with that is so much, as those of you who participated in the strategic planning or comp plan process, so much of it is small group and that interactive work. But at least it is a substitute. It's not an in-person participation. It's a good opportunity. Jack, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I think the other aspect of it is each of these meetings is going to start with a bit from the consultants talking about the data, the information, what they found in the survey so far, and what the issues are. Then they'll break down into the small groups. So as that's going on, if we have comments coming in, we'll be able to get those to the consultants and or to the small groups as needed, that we can, so that we get a larger participation from those folks that either can't be there during the day or can't be there during the evening. So we're trying to spread it around.
We are going to be, Harbor Lakes is having a homeowners association meeting this Thursday evening, and I do plan to bring this up as part of new business and say, hey, check all this out, please.
I'm going to check with Cynthia. We may have, because I believe you have a flyer you're bringing to the chamber tomorrow.
Yes. If you would like flyers with us for any of your events, let us know how many and we can get your copy. That has, it's a published list.
Here's the stuff, links to everything.
Piece of paper, I would prefer to have it
40 or 50, something like that would be great.
We can have those and you
Sure.
can double check.
Send me an email definitively how many you need, and I will.
We won't know until we actually get there, because
Okay.
we have an issue too.
Here's a couple of things I'll tell you on that front. I will send it to you digitally, and then if you'll come down and pick up, 40 printed copies to go, anybody that wants it, you'll have the ability to give them a digital copy as well, so they can click the link.
Okay.
They can click the link and go straight to the survey, or they can click the link and go straight to the registration.
Okay.
Okay? Have you all registered yet? I know you have, and you did just, yes. Carmen, I haven't seen yours name come through on the task force?
I will.
Okay. Please do. It's important. You've got a lot of good things to say, and we need everybody's input. And the mayor, I'm not going to tell him anything. He's going to do what he wants.
So, one more construction update before I forget, because that tends to happen. No. This room will be under construction at some point in the near future to fix some of the sound issues and ceiling.
Yeah.
Drop the ceiling, but next meeting, 2 meetings from now, maybe 3 meetings from now.
Well, we will authorize it at the end of March. Is that right? Yeah.
March 30th.
So we'll be working with the contractor for, there's a possibility that if we're working with the contractor, this meeting may be moved perhaps to the senior center for one meeting, but we don't anticipate it having an impact more than one meeting's time.
Biggest change for all of us, well, by the time that's done, Steve will probably be here, he'll be on a different board by the time, because I like to do that. We'll be flipping around, desks won't be on the side anymore, they'll be where Cynthia is pretty much, and they'll be all the way there, so we won't be seeing the bathrooms.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm using the restroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't be that, ceiling will be lower. Looking to also have a bit more of a collaborative style, tighten that circle, tighten where you all are into a little bit more of a
So we can see each other there.
Yeah.
Which of the task forces was complete that night that we launched education and like 2 people sitting there? Is that picked up there?
Well, the education is the one that we're handling slightly differently, directly, but I'm going off of memory, but I'm pretty close on this. We have 17 signed up for recreation. We have 18 signed up for economic. We have 8 for housing, and we have 7 for small-town field. I think that totals 50.
And add one to all of them, because I'll be at all of them, but.
Right. Well, and I haven't signed up either, but I'm going to be in the background. So yeah, there's going to be several people there, but we really want as many.
But yeah, the education one, we really are working with the school.
And it's probably farther along than the rest, to be quite frank, because it started sooner.
We have to get it on because one of the teachers is requiring all the students to do the surveys.
Yep, yep,
The surveys is what, the surveys, I couldn't understand you back.
yes.
Sorry, but, yes. Sorry for anyone at home watching.
That's okay.
But yeah, but that's the thing, we did have a huge bump in survey numbers from students participating. So the voices we have in the surveys are in the 10 to 20 age group. So we want to make sure that not only participation in the process, but those completion of the surveys. And the surveys don't shut down when we start the focus groups. They'll continue taking that information, they want that feedback, and they'll continue, but they do inform the focus groups and the information that you have in front of you. Those surveys have helped to inform those questions and the structure that they put together.
On the subject of housing, for just a moment, we were at the library earlier today, and a couple of, I realize that I'm technically a senior, but I don't see that. There was a bunch of older people that were coming out, and they were asking me, they were pointing to the housing by the library, and they were saying, when can we expect to see more of that? I don't know.
The funding of that, so that funding source dried up several years ago. So until that gets put back into the state budget, you won't see that kind of stuff anytime soon.
That's really too bad, because there's a lot of people who would really like to be able to move into some kind of a rent control situation.
Yeah. The feasibility showed that 32 units was sorely needed, and he built it fairly quickly, and it's full, so.
Yeah, and there's more that want to be.
Sure. Last thing, the initial draft of the comprehensive plan you have on your desk. It's a framework. There's no meat and bones on it yet. Again, I'd like for you to go through it. If there are any thoughts, concerns, or questions about it, if there's areas that you think need to fill in, to back off, whatever, provide those in a comment form to me, and we'll go from there. I'll get that to the consultant. They need your input, because although we don't have a true steering committee, you are what we have as a steering committee for this project. So you guys are ultimately going to be the first ones to vote on the comprehensive plan when we get it done. So it really works better if you've had your input all along that process.
So one of the things that we lacked during the strategic plan was the bold, crazy, wild ideas. So I challenge you guys to not think about the common, you're going to get a lot of the common, but think about those bold and wild and crazy ideas. Maybe it's, a senior education center where Deb can learn how to, do woodworking if she wants to, Yeah, she's done everything, so I don't know what's out there, but can't throw a basket weaving in there, but. Gardening, she's got locked down, I got that taken care of. But, think about it, status quo where you have, if not, they will come up with it'll be really crazy. We want some R's in there too. Right, Cynthia, can you hear me now? Cool. These mics do work, it's great.
By the way, this afternoon, whenever I set you all up, I pushed everybody's button to turn it on, so everybody's microphone has been hot all night, so.
Yeah, we call it turn them off everywhere.
Yeah, yes, you can turn everybody's off. Okay.
But we don't have any new technology as part of that, we're not gonna have this screen. TVs are cheap now.
Yes.
Britney Spears microphones, wireless,
We know that you guys have gotten this information just recently, but is there any comment or anything that we could share with the consultants? And if you don't have it tonight, if you could get information to Jack, so we could get that information to the consultants that helps inform that process.
And the sooner the better.
Yes.
Because they're trying to wrap up all of their questions that they're going to be asking at the task force, and all of your comments that you provide, they'd like to assimilate them into their conversation points. So as soon as we can get them to me, I can get them to them, and that'll help everything move forward. Monday at 2, the 23rd, Tuesday at 2, the 23rd at the library, and then Tuesday night, the 24th, here, and then the 25th at 2 o'clock at the library again, and then at the school on Thursday evening. All of those 4 groups will be assimilated into one big meeting.
I couldn't find any way to register for that one.
You don't need to register for that one. That one is just they will talk about it substantially at each task force meeting.
If you were to sponsor a wine and pizza.
Yeah.
All right, so any comments for Jack?
No.
All of the new ideas, I like that, and that's why I'm going to say what I'm going to say. The reason I was late, I spent the entire day from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Pulse. And there were 2.5 issues that were common. Whether you like it or not, my face is recognizable. And the first thing was county government, okay? And all I could say was, do was shake my head. The second biggest concern of the voters was the direction of Smithville. And it was broken into kind of, and kudos to the mayor, you got a lot of good things from the citizenry. But the negative were from the elderly, the ones that, rode you by where the lake is now, the ones that remember, remember the good old days, you know? And those two groups coalescing is going to be our challenge, at least the way I see it.
I 100% agree. It was identified starkly in 2016, and it has not stopped. We have to address that coalesce.
It's a grieving process.
It is a grieving process, and you've got to stand there and listen, and we shake your head in some sort of acknowledgement, instead of, labeling them as sticks and stuck in mud, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw that on previous thing, I was like, wait a minute.
So I'm not going to address the second comment, but I'll address the first one. I think Platte County government's doing okay. We're partially in Platte County, so let's talk about Platte County. They're doing okay.
No, Clay. Okay, the other new and bold idea, that bell was struck by page 4 of the demographic piece that you presented for us to consider. And I'll start with the fact that 13% increase in terms of the level of education, post-high school and up. Well, along comes with that is the potential, at least it's not empirical. Anecdotally, that can lead also to a change in mores and culture and tolerances, if you will. And so then I come down here and I read percent of population, traditional married couples. And I hope someone's listening to me in a few days on this. The Republican legislature in this city or this state is now relabeling it into a civil union. And I think if we're going to be bold with new ideas, I think that a word like traditional has no place in a legal or a governmental document. I think it could be misinterpreted, several people could be left out. I have several friends in Smithville that are same-sex couples with children. They're there, they're like mushrooms in a forest, but they're there.
Sure.
And so that was my primary concern.
Sure. And if I could, I'd like to respond to that. These are coming directly out of census questions. So they're federal questions. They're coming down. Yeah, so we have no way to address it. They literally pulled the data off of the American Community Survey
It was very slick.
Any other comments? All right, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Second. Voice vote. All in favor, please say aye. Against? All right, adjourn.
8:33. I wish I would have been able to get these things to you earlier so you would have time to review them, but please do so. It's where the difficulty starts coming in, the hard work starts coming in of your fun job as a volunteer for your community.